Hey everyone, Future Editing Mo here to tell you that this Saturday, April 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be hosting a live show on our YouTube channel. The live show will be a conspiracy theory pub quiz. You don't have to bring anything but yourself. We hope to see you there. Head on over to our YouTube, subscribe now, and hit that notification bell so that you'll see when we go live.
You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet, where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep Dark Truth.
Welcome back to the Deep Dark Truth. I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
And today we are going to talk about the curse of the Titanic sister ships.
Ooh.
This is beautiful.
Unscripted, uncut.
Going into this right now, are you guys skeptical? Do you believe in curses? Are you swayable?
I believe in putting either positive energy or negative energy out into the universe. So, I mean, in a sense, I believe in curses. Like, I feel like you could definitely put out negative energy or juju towards someone, and the more profound it is, the longer you do it, and the intensity which you do it could affect, butterfly effect things. So I mean, I kind of sort of believe in curses.
So like a reap what you sow kind of thing.
Yes.
I believe in curses in that I tell someone they're going to suffer and then I make them suffer.
That's a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is not the same thing.
I mean, if I'm gonna ask the universe to do work, I should do my own work.
I don't know that I believe in curses, but I definitely want to believe in curses.
Yeah, that sounds like you.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something really fun about the idea that you could be cursed at any time. Just shake things up.
Just shake things up.
Life's hard enough. We don't need curses.
Wouldn't it be fun if, like, your mortal enemy was cursed to have a rock in their shoe for eternity?
But I could just, sneak into their house every night and put a rock in their shoe.
That's illegal. You can't do that. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't.
There are many things that we can do that are illegal.
Chip would never do that.
Probably not.
That's
illegal.
so
much work.
I think I'm the white witch in this group. I don't think I would curse anyone or wish any ill upon someone.
Oh, God. Gag me.
Are you cursed to only speak in lies?
Oh, no.
It's beautiful.
Oh, no.
Whether cursed or coincidence, today we're talking about the curse of the Titanic. So in 1907, J. Bruce Ismay was the Director General of the White Star Line, and he was the chairman of Harland and Wolff Shipyard in Belfast. And he wanted to build a trio of ocean liners. Let's just call them what they are. They're the first cruise ship. He wanted something bigger and more luxurious in order to compete with Cunard's line, the Lusitania and Mauretania. So they named the new sisters their own designation, Olympic class, and they also named the first in the trio of sister ships Olympic, as well as the Britannic and the Titanic. It has been speculated that the original names of the ships were Olympic, Titanic, and Gigantic, something that hasn't really been proven out, but it makes sense with the Greek theme of the ships' names, the Olympians, the Titans, and the Giant.
It would make more sense, wouldn't it?
It sure would. Let's talk about why some people think that the Titanic might be cursed. The RMS Olympic had an incident. Actually, all of the ships had a series of incidents, we should say. But the RMS Olympic's first incident, when arriving in New York on her maiden voyage, due to the massive size of its propeller, it was able to pull in a tugboat by the name of O.L. Hollenbeck. Since the Olympic dwarfed the tugboat in size, it was able to escape with only some superficial damage, but the Hollenbeck was not so lucky. The maiden voyage incident would mark the beginning of the sister ship's incidents, and to what some refer to as the curse. A few months later, the Olympic was sailing too close to another ship. When the captain ordered the Olympic to be turned, it collided with the HMS Hawke. During both of these incidents, the captain was none other than Edward J. Smith, who would later go on to captain the Titanic.
Bum, bum, bum.
What?
Does that just mean he's a bad captain? This doesn't thus far sound like a curse. This sounds like bad boatmanship.
Yeah, what if the Titanic isn't cursed? What if he's cursed?
Yeah, what if it's him? No. Well, I mean, those can't be easy to navigate. They're gigantic, you know? I mean, I don't know.
And you have to remember that during this time period that ships are the main source of long transportation, so there's even more ship than there would be today in a shipyard or in a harbor. The Olympic, unlike her sisters, would stay in service for 24 years and would eventually be scrapped in 1935.
How did this Edward guy keep his job?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Who keeps hiring him?
I mean, you only had 2 major accidents in a short period of time. Why don't you captain this one, too?
Oops.
So on May 15th, 1934, in a heavy fog, the Olympic struck and sank the Nantucket, a boat that was to mark the shoals near Cape Cod, Massachusetts. In this incident, 7 of the 11 crewmen were killed, and the Olympic was later blamed for the incident.
Yeah, I think this ship is a murderer.
Yeah, for real though.
They're huge ships. What do they expect?
That was in 1934, and the Olympic was retired in 1935. That incident kind of pushed her over the bridge into retirement. They just took her out to pasture, we'll say.
Okay, you've killed a few too many. It's time to scrap you for parts.
So there were a lot of other minor incidents, but after some of these incidents took place, crews took parts from the Titanic to fit them onto the Olympic, and that delayed the maiden voyage of the Titanic by 3 weeks. So it was injured, I guess we'll say. It was damaged. It was injured. It was hurt. It had a boo-boo. So the Olympic had been damaged, and in order to keep her going...
Transplant.
Yeah, they transplanted parts from the Titanic onto the Olympic while the Titanic was still in dry dock. On the night that the Titanic sank, the Olympic would be one of the ships to receive its distress call from 580 miles away. At the time of the sinking of the Titanic, the Olympic was under the captaincy of Herbert James Haddock. Once the Olympic got 100 miles away, they were radioed and told that it wasn't advisable to continue onto the Titanic's position, as all the boats were accounted for and 675 people had been saved. When they offered to take on survivors, they were told it might be traumatizing for the survivors to see the mirror image of the Titanic on the horizon and then ask them to board it.
What?
So the Olympic, the Britannic, and the Titanic, the Olympic especially, and the Titanic, look very close to identical. There's very few things that set them apart. I know there's something about the smokestacks and this and that, but they look very close to each other. Also, they're made by the same company, so the aesthetics of them are also very similar. So can you imagine having just sank on a lifeboat and then Olympic in the distance?
I think that's a better option to drowning.
Well, yeah.
Or freezing to death.
Since they were so far away, by time they would have got there, other ships were there first. They weren't saying, die.
They would prefer to die than to see this.
I'm a little confused. So, when they took the parts from the Titanic they obviously replaced it on the Titanic before it took off, correct?
They did replace those parts, but it was like, hey, we need to hurry up and get the Olympic going because the Olympic was still taking passengers, etc.
Right.
And so those things are all booked up. We'll talk about it in a second, but the Olympic had a reputation for...
being a murderer?
No, for having upper-class passengers, but also for being a murderer.
A well-off murderer.
Yeah.
They generally are, if they get away with it.
So now, let's talk about the RMS Titanic. Many crew members were transferred from the Olympic to the Titanic. The Olympic had a reputation for having many upper-class passengers, and they traveled the White Star Line frequently. So they felt comfortable with the crew on the Olympic, and they wanted to transfer that to the Titanic. They wanted those people to see some familiar faces. They had already been working for White Star Line, so they had a sense of what the culture was to work there and what they should be doing, and they were experienced crew members. And so that's what they wanted. They didn't want brand new people to be working the Titanic.
Smart move.
Or was it?
So even though the Titanic sank on its maiden voyage, it still had an incident before even that. The Titanic almost collided with another ship when they were leaving port. Had they collided with that ship, they would have been forced to halt or even completely end the voyage, and likely would not have had any casualties.
If only you had been a better murderer, Titanic.
At least on that ship. There probably would have been casualties from the other ship.
Oh yeah, that other ship would have been eaten.
Cannibal ships. I have a theory.
The third and final sister ship, the HMHS Britannic, which stands for Her Majesty's Hospital Ship, was being built in Belfast when the Titanic sank in 1912. Because she was still being built after the Titanic sunk, many of the changes that were made during that building process, such as higher bulkheads and enhanced watertight compartments, were added. And this all meant that the ship could stay afloat with 6 of its compartments flooded.
It's probably not a whole lot on a ship like that, right?
No, it's kind of a lot. I did see a floor plan at one point. It looks like each floor, that there's like 4 or 5 compartments.
It's probably at least a quarter of the ship, or a third, up to a third.
Improvements were made because they were like, oh, we f***ed up.
Yeah, at that point you kind of have to, right? Just for publicity's sake.
In 1915, the Britannic entered service as a hospital ship, and it was bringing back soldiers to the UK from the Dardanelles. So the Britannic collected over 12,000 wounded British soldiers in the 5 voyages that it completed before it sank on November 21st, 1916.
Weird, I didn't see that coming.
Plot twist.
So it encountered a naval mine off the coast of Kea, Greece. It would later be revealed that a German U-boat, U-73, had laid the mines that sank her. It sank in 55 minutes, and 30 people perished.
Holy crap.
55 minutes.
That's fast.
It's insanely fast. It must have blown a huge hole.
Like, in half, almost.
To this day,
Wow.
the Britannic remains the largest ocean liner that ever sunk.
Wow.
That's what I said. My only thing that I was thinking was it had to all the way sink. It didn't need to partially sink, like that cruise ship off the coast of Italy. And also the difference between ocean liner and cruise ship and whatever. I'm sure that distinction is what makes it still the largest.
I mean, it's a big-ass ship.
That's scary, though, to, like, be a small ship next to that ship.
Knowing how many its sisters has eaten.
Just the wake alone isn't a great time.
No, I can imagine.
I've been in a boat behind a very large yacht, and the wake from that yacht on a medium-sized boat was okay, but on something like a jet ski, because that's all I can compare it to. You're basically on a jet ski compared to a giant yacht, right?
That's crazy.
In 1976, the wreck would be uncovered by Jacques Cousteau, which is interesting when you factor in that the Titanic wasn't uncovered until 1985, even though the Britannic sank after the Titanic. And the Titanic had all the media and history and things surrounding it. It was an unsinkable ship, you know? So you would think that would have been uncovered first.
No, I think it has everything to do with location and depth. If that one sunk near the coast of Greece, it wasn't very deep.
Okay, but why did it take that long to find it if it was near the... I don't know anything about boat wrecks, but, like,
It says it's near the coast. It's still probably really deep.
I don't think it took that long to find it. I think that because of the mines and everything... that they were like, nah, no thanks. Be in your watery grave.
60 years?
I wonder what the depth difference was between them, because it's probably a lot.
You also have to think, in like the 20s and 30s, the kind of technological advancements to be able to even get it up.
Wink.
That is a factor. You're not going to have people scuba diving and bringing up parts of the ship.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I think that's what it means by uncovered. I think uncovered means it was actually explored.
Okay, not like, we don't know where it is, where is it? Ah!
Yeah, I think that they had an idea of what it was. They just couldn't get to it. So it wasn't actually, like, uncovered and explored.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Do you guys remember the enhanced watertight compartments that they put in after the Titanic sank?
Yeah.
They didn't work. They didn't work at all. But also, let's be fair.
An explosion is different, though, right?
They blew up the ship blew up. It's not like it hit an iceberg or it hit something that there was a puncture. I think it just
It sank in 55 minutes. It was ripped apart like paper.
So I already mentioned that the captain of the Titanic was captaining the Olympic during some of her incidents, but let's talk about some other strange connecting threads. So a lookout from the Titanic named Archie, who was not on duty when it hit the iceberg. Don't blame Archie. It was not Archie's fault. Let him live.
Leave Archie alone.
He also worked on the Britannic, so he survived both sinkings, both the Britannic and the Titanic, and then after he was assigned to another hospital ship, the SS Donegal, he was on there for 5 months, and then it was struck by a torpedo, and he died.
So this is a series of people being cursed.
Third time's a charm.
I'm just saying, he interacted with the sister ships and then died.
Well, everyone who's interacted with the ships have died at this point, right? That's how time works. You see, mortal beings are...
They died as a direct result of their line of work, which included the sister ships. Is that better? Are you happy?
No, never.
So I looked it up. The Britannic is at 400 feet, and the Titanic was at 12,500.
That makes sense.
Exponentially a lot harder to, get to, especially in that time period.
So, there was also a ship stewardess named Violet. She also survived both sinkings.
Why do these people keep taking jobs on these boats?
They needed jobs.
Yeah.
This is their skill set. Boating.
Why do you have your job?
I don't want to.
Why does anybody have a job?
My job doesn't keep sinking. I don't keep taking jobs on exploding.
No, I don't think I would get back into a boat after the first time. Mm-mm.
Oh, hell no, I wouldn't.
Nope.
If it was just that Italian cruise ship where it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It was beached and it had started taking on water, but it was right off the coast. That's way different than being out in the middle of the ocean and the boat completely sinking. That would be terrifying to watch.
Sometimes you're on a boat and you strike a mine. That's not traumatizing at all.
So there's also a lot of misconceptions about the sister ships, and the Titanic in particular is notorious for this. White Star Lines never claimed that any of the Olympic-class ships were unsinkable.
Where did we get that one, then?
I mean, they're clearly sinkable.
Clearly.
No one is stupid enough to claim that a ship is unsinkable.
Yeah, I mean, even the Chitty Chitty Bang car is sinkable. You know what I mean?
Okay, Boomer.
Oh, I love that movie.
So, some people said that it was unsinkable because of the safety design that was done by Thomas Andrews. It was state-of-the-art, allegedly. I don't know about that.
So it was like some newspaper probably said it.
It had a reputation, and the safety design had a reputation. It was different than previous designs. And so people said, oh, it's so safe. It's unsinkable. But
then they sank.
That wasn't a thing the White Star Lines ever said, which is good, I guess. Not that it matters, because that's what we all remember the Titanic for. So they might as well have said it. It wouldn't have made a difference. Because the Britannic had a lot more survivors than the Titanic, a lot of the story themes that are in the movie Titanic are from journal entries of first-hand accounts of the sinking of the Britannic. Some of them eerily so. There's a scene in the movie where a lifeboat becomes unbalanced and it plunges into the water. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
I remember it so clearly.
Yes.
My younger sister watched Titanic every day. All the time. It's like a 4-hour movie, and she watched it all the time. We got Heart of the Ocean necklaces her one year.
Yikes.
Yeah, she was real about that. So I remember it very clearly, and that ended up being one of the most iconic moments of the movie, and it was from a journal entry.
I would think it's probably one of the most iconic moments. That the quartet playing and the guy hitting off of the propeller was number one for me.
For me, it was the two old people in the third class cabins.
Yeah. The old Irish couple, I think it was.
Oh my god.
I've seen some Tumblr post that talks about that, but I don't have anything to back it up that they were based on a real couple.
If you were ugly crying at that moment, then you don't have a soul.
So the Cunard line had the Lusitania, and the White Star line had tight competition. So how much of this curse might be traced back to shoddy workmanship? The Titanic getting its new parts taken off of it and put on the Olympic, and having to delay that 3-week period of time, and people had already paid a lot of money to be on that boat. White Star had a reputation for its upper class passengers, and if they just said, hey, just kidding, the Titanic's not setting sail for another 2 months, they might have lost a lot of business.
I want to speak to a manager.
There's also quite a few conspiracy theories surrounding the Titanic, in addition to the curse, because of course there is.
Isn't there a conspiracy that, like, the Olympic and the Titanic were switched?
Yeah. So one of the theories is that the Titanic never sank at all. And because it was a new ship and the Olympic had already been in commission, that White Star switched the two ships, and the Titanic then assumed the role of the Olympic. They sank the Olympic for the insurance money.
And to help publicity, like, obviously, right? They were having some issues with accidents.
Yeah, but I don't know how much that helps. I mean, the Olympic, obviously, it helps the Olympic, but I don't know that it helps their brand to have this quote-unquote unsinkable ship. They didn't say it, but everyone else did, so I said what I said. To have it sink with a bunch of very rich people on board.
What is it? Any publicity is good publicity? Because it gets your name out there and people... I don't know how advertising works in this particular context. But Chipotle's still going after that health scare.
I was just looking at it as, like, rectifying the situation, like them correcting their mishaps. We're gonna sink the ship because it's faulty and we've had so many issues with it, kind of thing. That was just my train of thought.
Gotta be better ways to...
Or this scenario, my ship of thought.
I'm placing a curse on you right now.
No, not a curse.
One of the other conspiracy theories is that J.P. Morgan somehow was involved in the planning of this disaster to kill off rivals. Jacob Astor, Isidor Strauss, and Benjamin Guggenheim all perished on board the Titanic. Morgan was going to sail on the Titanic, and then right before it left, he changed his mind, and he decided to make other travel arrangements. Obviously, that doesn't account for, the iceberg and all these other things, but it was definitely a very convenient.
I mean, you could pay the captain of the ship off.
You could.
He could leave his family with millions of dollars if you make sure you run it into an iceberg.
Hey you, I've heard you ruin boats before.
It would be believable. It would be the right captain to pay off. That's for sure. There's also other conspiracy theories, like a mummy's curse somehow affected the Titanic.
How did the mummy get to the boat? Why does it care? It wishes the boats had been named after Egyptian mythology, not Greek mythology.
So there was a British editor who was a spiritualist, and he had spent years before saying cursed mummy was causing destruction and disaster and all of these ill-fated things to happen throughout London, and he was on board the Titanic. While on the Titanic, he told everybody and their mom about the mummy's curse. And then after the ship sank, a survivor was he warned us about the mummy's curse, and it got us.
I'm gonna actually support that theory above all of the rest.
That's the one you're going in on?
Have fun with that one.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. I still find it hard to believe that they ran into an iceberg.
I mean, it's not that unbelievable to me. It was real dark.
I mean, they have radar, don't they?
It's 1911. I'm sure
True.
Whatever radar they could have had, not great. Or it's 1912.
Radar was invented in 1935.
Yeah, no radar.
Yeah, it said sonar was still experimental in the stage of 1912.
So they got nothing. They got a dude.
They have a lookout.
In a crow's nest.
Archie, who wasn't on Dory.
Yeah, it's not Archie's fault. Another conspiracy is that the ship was attacked by a U-boat, but I think the survivors would have realized that was happening.
Yeah, I would think that too.
But they're saying, they hit it with it. They didn't hit an iceberg, they hit it with a torpedo.
Well, it certainly wasn't hit by a mine, because we know how quick it goes down if it was a mine.
For real.
It did hit the iceberg, but it wasn't damaged by it, but there were some ice beings who were very angry about their iceberg being hit, so they climbed aboard and waited, and then they sank it.
Alright, so get this, guys. I totally found this article, and it basically says that the Titanic had, like, this crowning glory of, like, advanced wireless communication, right? And it was through Morse code, is how it was done. And it was supposedly, like, you know, the most powerful one at the time, or whatever. People, like the chief wireless operator and the wireless system, at least how it was used, were part of the string. Okay, I need to start that part over. So, according to this article, many people say that the operating system and the wireless system was the tragic, like, reason behind a string of problems that led to its sinking. Supposedly, the passengers were allowed to use this wireless operating communication to, like, send messages to their friends and family. So it was hard for, like, the only two operators at this time, which I believe, what's their names? Jack Phillips and Harold Bride. There's only two operators. So they were...
Not our friend, what's-his-face.
Not Alfie.
Right. Totally. So they were, like, getting inundated with all these personal messages and responses, but also trying to keep track of, like, safety responses and telecommunications through, like, between other ships and stuff, and with, like, the main, like, communication system of the Titanic. So they were basically saying, like, that was a huge mistake, and that around 11:30 on April 14th, an operator not sailing far from the Titanic messaged them, warning them, and a stressed and fatigued, like, Jack Phillips at the time, basically angrily shot back a message saying, shut up, I'm working Cape Race. Going back to this article and looking it up, Phillips meant that he was, like, busy relaying these messages to a wireless station in Cape Race about 800 miles away. So he was basically inundated with something else, whether it was personal or not. They don't really describe.
So basically,
but, like,
he had so many messages that when they tried to send a distress message, he was like, I'm very busy here.
Yep, basically. That's one of this theory of this article basically is stating. Interesting, huh?
So how far away were they?
The other ship, it's the SS Californian, a British steamship. It just says nearby, like sailing not far from the Titanic, so...
Could have saved him.
It must have been...
Didn't save him.
Yeah, it must have been within, like...
Wow.
So it also goes on to say that the Californian didn't respond to the Titanic's distress signal because its wireless operator had gone to bed after being rebuffed from the warning.
Oh, right. These people are not very professional in that, like, hey, you should watch out, I'm busy. And then the other guy's like, why did he rebuff me? I'm going to bed.
Basically, that's what happened. That's why the Titanic sank. There you have it.
I blame that guy. I blame the California.
So this one isn't really a conspiracy. It's kind of more on the paranormal side. But in 1886, a British writer, William T. Stead, he published a short story, How the Atlantic Mail Steamer Went Down. And that plot is very close to what actually happened with the Titanic. A mail steamer in the Atlantic, it collided with another vessel instead of an iceberg, and there was a shortage of lifeboats. And then Stead was that passenger that was on the Titanic that died, that had been also talking about the mummy. So some people say that he saw his own death, like it came to him in a vision, and that's why he wrote about how the Atlantic mail steamer went down. He sounds cursed, too.
Yeah,
Him,
I don't think the boats are cursed. I think people are cursed.
and the captain, real cursed.
Poor Archie. What was her name? Violet? Something like that?
Violet, Archie, and Captain Smith.
I don't pity Captain Smith. He needs to be better at his job. But Archie and Violet, justice for them.
We have conspiracy theories. We have this weird paranormal thing with the mummy curse and Stead possibly seeing his own death. So naturally, I think our official endorsement isn't cursed, it has to be aliens.
Obviously.
Just so that we've hit all of our points.
Have we hit all of them?
I mean, I feel like it. We got aliens.
Yeah, Mummies covers ghosts, so yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got the murder with the J.P. Morgan wants to murder all his rivals thing. That
We're missing that there was a Stegosaurus
Oh my gosh, you're right.
from Jurassic Park, and it could have been dinosaurs that caused it.
What if it was a Nessie?
Nessie.
Yeah, what if? What if it was a cryptid?
Nessie, why?
Giant squid.
Yeah, it stirred it right towards the iceberg.
What's the worm one?
It's called the Mongolian death worm. We don't talk about it.
Oh god, we don't talk about that anymore.
What is wrong with you?
It's the Atlantic death worm, not the one that you spoke of, that which will not be wormed.
Oh god, no, it was one time, Chip. That's all we were supposed to talk about it.
Right, now we're worm cursed.
Great, thanks. Thanks for everything.
Well, it was nice knowing you guys.
It must suck to be bad at your job, but then you are so infamous for being bad at that job that it led to the deaths of lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
What a horrible legacy. Because I know tons of people that are bad at their job. That's not the thing that people remember them for.
I love being remembered for the accidental death of hundreds of people. You know. If you actively murder them, that's different. Like, I chose this. But to be remembered for fucking up and murdering people...
I mean, at least he died. And he never had to live through any of that. Also,
unless he's a ghost.
If he would have lived, I wonder if he would have went on to then become a captain of the Britannic and fuck shit up over on the Britannic. I mean, it ended up sinking anyway, so...
He's one of those ghosts that doesn't realize he's dead, so he goes on doing his thing, and he just, he got assigned to the Britannic.
I love this canon. I love this origin story.
I'm here for it.
So what are we thinking? Curse? No curse? The people are cursed? Conspiracy
people are
theory?
cursed and also incompetent.
I'm going with unfortunate accident on this one. Call me crazy, but...
I do.
I would not be surprised. For some reason, I just wouldn't be surprised if the insurance conspiracy theory is true.
Oh, I'm always behind money conspiracies. They make the most sense.
If the motivation is a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to think, too, the Olympic wasn't decommissioned until 1935, and the Titanic sunk in 1912. That's a long time for that ship to last when both of its sister ships sunk.
We're dead real quick.
I'm just saying, it's a little shady.
Do we have the year that the Olympics started?
So the Olympic went from 1911 to 1935, so it started a year before the Titanic, but in that year, it had like a slew of incidents.
That's why they sunk it.
So something wasn't right.
These boats were not well made.
And they were made by these giant companies, so you would think.
I mean, what if J.P. Morgan paid this company to make all of these things happen?
I just feel like Harland and Wolff, like the builder, along with White Star, would also have to be in on it, because the Harland and Wolff would have to make something...
Not really.
I guess they wouldn't have to make anything faulty, but...
Yeah, not to make anything faulty, but, like, it could have just been up to the captain of the Titanic.
But he died!
I guess they would have to know the location of the iceberg. But, I mean, I could still be bought if it meant, like, my family was taken care of.
But you'd never go for the lower downs. They're not the ones in the conspiracy. It's the higher-ups of, like, the White Star who are like, let's get rid of this Olympic. And J.P. Morgan's like, hey, there's a bunch of my enemies on this boat. If something were to tragically happen...
And they're like, we have the perfect captain for that. He's been shit up for us for a whole year. And honestly, we would just be better off without him.
Then they shake hands and they walk away.
Or could have had somebody on the boat sabotaging something, or maybe the lookout, or somebody that would know what's going to happen. You know, let's say it's a crewman, it's the lookout. He just leaves his post and gets ready to get right onto a rescue boat.
He's already sitting in the lifeboat,
ready to go.
What if it was Archie?
No!
That's why he wasn't on duty.
Stop
He
it!
knew not to take that one.
How could you do this to him?
He didn't see the iceberg because he knew it was coming.
Are you saying that Archie and Violet are like the Bonnie and Clyde of the Titanic?
She sets the charges off. It's perfect.
I can't believe y'all gonna do my boy Archie like this.
She was sleeping with the wireless operator. That's how she got in there, too.
He was so tired and cranky. We're onto something here.
Are we?
Hey, wait, they both survived. They were both on the Britannic later. Archie and Violet.
The new Bonnie and Clyde.
Why were they both on that boat?
At least everyone will know who they are after listening to this podcast.
Remember them.
Yeah, they're gonna remember them as saboteurs.
I mean,
Maybe they
they
were.
survived both of those ships. 100% sink rate.
Coincidence or not?
They were just #blessed.
Oh, are curses blessings now?
A quarter of the people survived the Titanic. A quarter, and they were one of them.
No, they were two of them.
After surviving another one? Something's weird here.
Something's rotten in the state of Britannic.
It reminds me of the adage of there was a man on a deserted island dying of thirst, and a boat showed up, and he was like, yo, it's fine. God's gonna save me. Then God was like, yo, I sent you a boat.
What more do you want from me?
That's kind of what Archie and Violet feel like. They got off that boat and were like, it's fine, I've been blessed. Obviously, I'm meant to be here on this planet. And then immediately got on another boat.
The same sister boat.
Or they knew they were going to survive, because they planned it.
Well,
My final conclusion is Archie and Violet were paid by Morgan and...
I am going to second this theory.
Oh yeah.
100%.
High five.
I wonder how many times Miranda rolls
I
her eyes
just
at us
did!
while recording.
Stop calling me out! When you guys fake clapped, even though you're in different states, you high-fived each other. And I was just like, how did I get here in my life?
What do you want from us? You wrote this in the script.
I know. I don't
I
understand.
hate you.
We're just following the lines you told us. Why did you write the Titanic sinking if you didn't want us to follow through?
All of this is going in the blooper reel.
Right.
I will not be disrespected.
My writing.
Also, Violet, whose full name, by the way, is Violet Constance Jessup, in addition to being the stewardess, she also was a nurse. So on the Titanic, she was a stewardess, and then she went on to the Britannic, in which she was a nurse.
Because nurses are never evil.
I'm just picturing the nurse from Kill Bill. That's all I'm picturing right now.
Angel of death. These people needed to be put down.
Oh my god, guys, Violet was on all 3 ships. I don't know how.
She was.
I didn't see that she was on the Olympic when I was doing my research, because it never got brought up.
Yeah.
She was on the Olympic, and she was a stewardess. And then she was on the Titanic, and she was a stewardess. And then she was on the Britannic. She
As a
was
nurse.
a stewardess for the British Red Cross, and then later, it appears she
Became a
was a nurse.
How did she pay for that?
JP Morgan's money? Damn it!
Yes! We converted her!
JP Morgan's money.
Oh no!
How was she able to afford that kind of education in 1912?
A woman at that time?
Mhm.
Come on. Ooh, we found the truth, listeners. We found it.
She looks like she might have been well-to-do. She was Argentinian, and then she died in England. She had, like,
Good for
Irish
her.
and Welsh ancestry, even though she was born in Argentina? Argentina.
So you're saying that she survived 4 to 6 maybe incidences on the Olympic, the Titanic sinking, the Britannic sinking. She had nothing to do with it though, right?
Oh, she was on the Olympic when there was a collision. It wasn't just she happened to work on it.
When it collided with the British warship, the HMS
Yeah.
Hawk,
She was there.
she was on...
Yeah.
This is no coincidence.
Okay, fine. I'm willing to get on board with this, but you need to leave Archie's name out of what you're doing.
Why? She's clearly... They're clearly in cohorts together.
He's being strung along by her, but he's still part of it.
no.
Think about it. If his name is Archie in that time, how many friends does he have?
Oh no.
That's the linchpin of our theory.
Come on, he sounds like a yes man, doesn't he?
I'm not seeing that she was ever married.
No.
This is suspicious at such a time.
Archie's full name was Archie Jewell.
Jessup Jewell.
Okay, no, we're not making J names conspiracy.
Were they friends before? Did they know each other?
Well, they definitely worked together.
Mm-hmm.
Archie was with the White Star Line by, 1904, so he had been working for the company for quite a period of time.
So if they said, hey, we've got this deal with JP Morgan, all you gotta do is XYZ.
Does it say anything about Morgan's, relationship to that company at all? Obviously he was a frequent flyer, right?
Rich people.
So JP Morgan, he was primarily a financer, and he financed the formation of the International Mercantile Marine Company. And one of its subsidiaries was White Star Line.
Bum, bum, bum.
The Titanic sunk in 1912, and Morgan died in 1913. But it was a financial disaster for the International Mercantile Marine Company. And it ended up was forced to apply for bankruptcy a few years later. So it wasn't good.
Just disprove our theory?
It wasn't good for him. But also the insurance, though, that doesn't mean that he couldn't personally profit. But it just ruined that company that he had financed. But that doesn't mean he didn't get financing through other things.
People ruin their own companies all the time for a profit, and I don't just mean in the producers.
But I don't know that he had any personal relationship with the head of White Star Line.
I mean, he certainly is connected to them at least through 2 degrees of work laddership. What's it called? Hierarchy?
Big corporations like that, a lot of times, a financer, especially when there's the company in between them, maybe he met him, maybe he didn't. Because there's a very good chance that they never were ever in the same room together.
But if he shows up one day with a big check, and he says, hey, I got my buds Archie and Violet in on this.
Are you sure they weren't in the room where it happened?
I'm not.
Start singing.
I can't believe you guys made up, wove this whole conspiracy theory on the spot.
It's pretty believable. I'm here for it.
We just saw the pieces come together.
I'm over here going, I don't know, maybe she did it. Maybe Violet did it. She's shady.
All 3 ships.
I don't know, maybe after the 7th incident of his ship being in an accident or sinking, I would not get on another ship, but if there was a lot of financial gain...
Except, there's car accidents every day. You get in a car...
Yeah, and I tell people that it's the most dangerous thing they do every day.
You still get in a car.
I mean, but the Titanic would be the equivalent of being in a car with 4 people, and you're the only survivor out of the 4.
Over and over and over again.
But eventually people that get in accidents that most of the people in the car die, if all of them and they're the only survivor, eventually they get on a car again, because they don't have options. It's not like these people could take a plane. And especially when you're dealing with people that have relatives in New York and relatives in the US and they're British or vice versa.
True. But stop defending her. What is your personal tie to Violet?
I am not a Violet apologist. I'm just saying we don't know everything.
If we left Archie out of the equation, would you accept this conspiracy theory?
Maybe. I don't know Archie. I'm just real attached for no reason whatsoever.
He was just a fly in her web. It wasn't his
Because
fault.
Archie ended up dying anyway. She didn't.
Well, she did too eventually.
I mean, eventually. Shut up. Archie died quick after on another ship.
I wonder if she was on that ship.
Shut up.
I mean, accident gone wrong. There's risks involved to
what
these things.
What if she killed Archie to tie up loose ends? Okay, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. We're not doing
this.
Very,
very likely. Very, very likely. I mean, the villains turn on each other all the time.
Very, very likely?
The villains turn on each other all the time.
As likely as the Mummy's curse, I think we're about 10 times as likely as the Mummy's curse.
Have you not seen The Lion King?
Have you not seen the movie The Mummy? Are you going to tell me that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson lied to me?
Oh, that's all we have for today, folks.
He was in The Mummy Returns, yeah.
I'm just not that emotionally invested in The Mummy or The Mummy Returns.
It's no Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's not Jurassic Park.
Brendan Fraser would never.
Well, I'm settled on my theory. Sounds like Mikey settled on his theory. Sounds like Mo's in denial about her theory.
She's probably going with aliens. Shocker.
Listen, I don't usually go with aliens, though, so it is a shocker. I pretty much never go with aliens.
Because you're resisting the truth. Stop fighting the truth.
So, Mo, what do you think? Do you think that the company and those 3 ships were all cursed?
I think that it was just probably a normal run-of-the-mill thing. They hit a dinosaur and they sank. It's a normal day.
Just for Nessie.
I mean, these are giant ships that are traveling at high speeds. I mean, and
they're not
new.
going
It's all
that
new.
fast. They can't go that fast.
It's all new, though.
It was going 26 miles an hour.
I was just Googling that.
I was gonna guess like 18 knots, but it's 23 knots, which is like 26 miles an hour. It was
only technically speeding in a residential area.
Yes.
But force equals your mother, Mo. Mass times acceleration.
Like, your mom? The fuck? No, your mom will beat me. But my mom will beat you. So, riddle me this.
Mikey mysteriously disappears after meeting up with Mo's mom.
I love Mo's mom.
I love Mikey's mom.
Why you gotta disrespect her like that? So, listeners, what are your theories? Are you on board with Violet and Archie, the evil duo?
The Bonnie and Clyde of the ocean, we'll say.
Mummy Guy? Was it Mummy Guy?
William Stead, I believe his name was.
Oh, yeah, William Stead.
The inadequacy of Captain Edward J. Smith?
I think that William Stead wanted publicity for his writings. And that's what the whole mummy curse thing was. So that people would read his short stories. Very charlatan-esque.
Did he survive?
No, he did. And that's why people think that he saw his own death, basically. And when he wrote about the Atlantic steamliner, or whatever his short story was called, they think that he basically saw his own death inadvertently, not knowing that's what it was, and wrote about it.
I'm not going with that theory.
No, because obviously J.P. Morgan paid Violet and Archie to sink it.
I agree.
I don't know why Archie is involved in any of this. He did nothing to you, and then he sank to his watery grave.
He was on multiple accidents and sinkings, and then...
He worked for the ship, the cruise line!
And then was going to out them, and so they had to... Yeah.
Violet put him down. Tell us what you think in the comments. Or at our email. Or at our Twitter. Or at our Facebook. Or at our tip line. Or... do we have anything else?
That sounds about right. And stay tuned after the episode to hear a promo from the Shut Up Cameron podcast.
Thank you for sinking deep with us and discovering the truth.
Oh, that's the truth right there.
Where is this written?
That's improv.
I hate everything. I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
Bye.
Hey guys, have you been looking for a new podcast that talks about everything from mental health to music, movies, conspiracy theories, and so much more? Well, now you found that. We are the Shut Up Cameron podcast, and we're here to brighten your day, whether you're feeling down or whether you're just having your normal daily struggles. Because we want you to know that you're not alone, and we're here to make you laugh. So please check out the Shut Up Cameron podcast everywhere podcasts are found, at Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, and of course, Anchor.
Daddy, I have something to say. Please listen to my daddy's podcast. He needs to pay me and I want money.